Let's just play the clip.
So, honestly, like before, I was just on the streets, messing around, trolling people, like just farming like what I could, but then I realized like that's not what brings you long-term success, it just brings you hate. It doesn't get me to where I want to be. So I started like just tapping into like just hitting up like UFC fighters, NBA players, NFL players, boxers, and like playing their sport with them, because like that was always my passion, especially basketball. So now I'm able to go around basketball players, like my dream, and then tapping into other things where people like will see a different side of me, not just a side of me that's just like trolling, messing around, and just being like a jackass, you know? When you do it so much, it starts to become what people really think about you. It's hard to like change people's minds, but once you like stir it in their head that you're really not that person, you're changing, whatever, then you see a big difference.
Okay.
So
look at Cardiac. Come on, bro. That's why I stream, man. Straight to the content. No script. All right. But nevertheless, streamer Neon has been one of the most controversial streamers in the last 3 years. I would say at a certain point, I ain't gonna lie, especially because this was at a point in time where Aiden was kind of tapering off as well. Neon was the face of Kick. Neon was the face of IRL streaming. He was the face of edgy content. When you thought of an edgy content creator, streamer, piece of shit, little piece of shit, you thought of Neon. That's just what it was. And I've been seeing it this year, and this is really the first time he's really addressed it. I've been seeing a shift in Neon's content this year. I've been seeing a lot of collabs with NBA players specifically, which I'm glad he acknowledged. And I'm like, damn, all these NBA players really want to collab with fucking Neon? But yeah, that's what they do. Content-wise as well, I haven't seen any crazy clips from a Neon stream in a minute. Problematic clips, him going crazy, him crashing out, all these different things. I haven't seen it. But what I have seen is Neon, again, those NBA streams, and him doing collabs that are more PC, more brand friendly. He's collabing with more mainstream streamers. You know, I think he was in a basketball event lately with like Black Boy Max and a couple FaZe dudes, and that was pretty cool to see. That was pretty cool to see. So my questions, look at Cardiac. know your bag. Stop playing, bro. We come from the same school. So my question here is, I do think it's interesting that, you know, he kind of opens the clip up by saying, whatchamacallit, this is his exact verbiage. He was doing all this shit, farming all these different things, doing all the trolling. And then he says, but then I realized, like, that's not what brings you long-term success. It just brings you hate. Which he's not wrong about. But what that does is question my intentions as to why he's doing this. Is this just because his career's fallen off? Is this the new grift? Is to become PC? Because edgy content is, you know, drying out? That's my question. And it could be both. It could be a case of both. Right? Neon does have better PR than Aiden. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. But he does make an interesting point right here. And I do want to replay this. You know?
We'll see a different side of me. Things where people like will see a different side of me, not just a side of me that's just like trolling, messing around, and just being like a jackass, you know? When you do it so much, it starts to become what people really think about you. It's hard to like change people's minds, but once you like stir it in their head that you're really not that person, you're changing, whatever, then you see a big difference.
So the reason why that's interesting to me is because we've had other conversations on this pod before of other streamers honestly trying to pivot back to get to the good graces of people. That's what I've seen. I want to name specifically 2 examples right here. I want to name Fousey and Sneako. Fousey and Sneako to me are 2 streamers that were doing very similar content to Neon. These are 2 streamers that are associated with the outcasts of streaming, doing edgy content, doing IRL streaming. You know, people would say is on the red pill side of things. These were the content creators. These were the streamers that Sneako and Fousey were. And Fousey, even going back, has had so many apology tours, so many I'm changing for the better tours. He's probably doing it right now. I think he actually is doing it right now. I saw a clip of Fousey the other day talking about, and I do know he does do Ramadan, celebrate it. I don't know the right verbiage. I don't want to fuck it up. So he does, like, I'm not judging that, but based off of his content, he's taking the more mellow approach again, less extreme content, more calm content, trying to show that he's changed. And Fousey is a person that has had so many times to correct his image, has attempted so many times to correct his image and turn back every single time, that motherfuckers do not care. They do not believe him anytime he tries to pull this card anymore. It's a boy cried wolf situation. You gonna tell me you changed, but you never really changed. Shout out to Poppy Eli for $2. Sold you my goat. You go leave a 5-star review. Shout out to Poppy Eli, man. Sneako's a little bit different. Like I said, Sneako is definitely a polarizing figure in the streaming space, specifically in the political space. And I will say, he hasn't pivoted all the way back or all the way left. You know what I'm saying? But I do think there was a point in time where I would consider Sneako an extreme content creator. An extremist content creator, I would even say. But with the content that he's been making lately, with the moves that he's been making in the content space, I will say he's probably centered the most ever since his streaming pivot. This is probably the most grounded I've ever seen Sneako been. This is probably the most calm Sneako has been. But he also hasn't been too calm to the point where, you can say like he switched up or he's just changing his views altogether. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we go to his content, I saw a lot of political stuff in here. There's still a lot of, not clickbaity, but extreme points being made and things of that nature. And as much as Sneako wants to pivot out of his image or change his PR, I do think there's a level of just like, this is just who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you actually care about the political content. You actually care about, being this artistic figure, that you just can't be this, just general ass streamer. That's just not who you are. You might even call it an NPC. Like, that's just not your bag. But I do find it interesting with Neon, though, because we have seen it. He has been getting better PR. I think in a larger sense, he is trying his damn hardest to change motherfuckers' mind about his perception. And I do find it interesting that it is working. I even saw Agent today. I think he actually replied in the tweet that I was just showing y'all. Let me go ahead and bring it up. Again. Agent even said in the replies right here, W character development, I respect that. Right? So the question that I've always had when it comes to this specific situation right here is, can the uncanceled be canceled? And what would it take? What would it look like? You know what I'm saying? Do we think the internet is forgiving enough to actually turn a new leaf when it comes to certain content creators? Do we believe that time truly does heal all wounds and motherfuckers don't really care after a certain period of time? And I'm not gonna lie, with this Neon shit, I think people are actually acceptable to people turning a new leaf as long as the change is actually real. I think there's certain damage that just cannot be undone. To Q-Pac's point, it depends on what you did. You know what I'm saying? There will always be certain people that say, yo, just because you're making this pivot doesn't mean I can forget about all the hateful shit that you said, all the dumbass shit that you did. I just can't forgive that because you're turning it. Like, there's always going to be those people. But I am talking about in a general sense. I think if people see genuine, and you can technically fake it, some people won't buy it, some people will. But if you do a good enough job of convincing people that you are genuinely changing, like your character and your outward view on things have genuinely changed, I do think, like we're seeing with Neon right now, change can happen from a PR perspective. Change can definitely happen. Society is way too forgiving. I would actually, nowadays, it's actually not, bro. I would actually say nowadays society is not as forgiving as it should be. I feel like now it's just, you gotta be perfect. You gotta be perfect. There's no room for forgiveness. There's no room for making mistakes. There's no room for fucking up. Everyone wants to have the accountability conversation. I actually disagree with that, Jeremy. Not to say that certain things should just be forgiven, but I do think in the larger sense, the internet is not a forgiving place. The internet is not a forgiving place. Actions speak louder than words. I agree. But then that does, again, beg the question, if the actions are genuine, do you forgive someone? And I just find it interesting that it actually is working for Neon, but for people like Sneako and Fousey, it isn't. And I think it's because of the fact that for Neon and Sneako, or not Neon and Sneako, Sneako and Fousey, excuse me, you can't fake it. And maybe this is, me being too gullible. I genuinely do think Neon's pivot is more genuine and actually real than all the apology tours that Fousey has done. And Sneako, I don't think he's necessarily being fake right now. But I just don't see Sneako really turning the course so much that his ideologies just change. You know what I'm saying? I understand he's trying to get PR, but I don't think he can do it in his heart of hearts to just change his viewpoints on, Palestine, the Israel-Palestine conflict, on, cancel culture, on censorship, all these different things. Like, it would actually be not genuine if Sneako pretended like those things didn't matter to him. You know what I'm saying? Because those things genuinely do. But it's just a very, very interesting conversation. We can't say internet isn't forgiving when it has worked for Sneako and Fousey in the past, and it's currently working for Neon and even Aiden to an extent. Aiden, I guess. I mean, those are valid points, but I would actually say that for Sneako, it's not working. I'm not gonna lie. For Sneako, it's not working. For Fousey, it worked the first couple of times, but now motherfuckers do not believe him. And even for Aiden, Twitch ain't unbanning Aiden. Twitch is not unbanning Aiden. I think the people who forgive Aiden just never gave a fuck from the beginning, so there was no forgiveness to be had. You know what I'm saying? They just never cared.